Shalom, all praises to Yahweh, Bashem Yahushai, and double honors to the apostles and the elders of Great Millstone, Bashem Rakakwadash. My name is Yakalba from Plain Tables Camp of Philly. There is no difference between the Jew and the Greek. All right, this is Romans 10 and 12, where it says, "For there is no difference between the Jew and the Greek, for the same Lord over all is rich unto all that call upon him." So right here, the Greek is referring to the Israelites, Helen. All right. There's no difference because the Greeks used to be called Judah. And the only reason they're being called Greeks is because they adopted the customs of the Greeks. All right, and this proves it when you look up the word Helen, 1672. All right. Now we're going to look that up after this. It says 10 and 13, "For whosoever shall call upon the name of the Lord shall be saved." All right. So you have to know the name of the Lord to be saved. And the heathen don't call on the name of the Lord. The heathen don't have a relationship with Yahushua to return because they never originally had the name. Only the Greeks, as spoken here, had the name of the Lord. All right. And this Greeks here is referring to Israelites that were Hellenized, and they now worship the customs and they speak the language of the Greeks. Now, this here is 10 and 13 is taken from Joel, the book of Joel. Let's get that. Then we'll look up Helen. This is Joel 2 and 32. And it shall come to pass that, so this is the end, the sun shall be turned into darkness and the moon into blood before the great and terrible day of the Lord. All right. Meaning it's going to be confusion. The powers of the Edomites are going to fall. There's going to be signs in the sky. All right. And it shall come to pass that whosoever shall call on the name of Yahweh shall be delivered. For in Mount Zion and in Jerusalem shall be deliverance. And Yahweh had said, as Yahweh had said, and the remnant whom Yahweh shall call. And the remnant are the Israelites. All right. Speaks about the remnant. The remnant shall be saved. It's from the Israelites. It tells you that what Isaiah 4 and 1. On down. It tells you about the remnant. All right. So salvation is coming out of Jerusalem, which is a people before it's a place. So wherever the Lord's elect are, they're going to be delivered. But the main deliverance is going to be in Babylon, America. All right. This is the only land that's going to be completely burned, incinerated. So delivered means when fire is about to come down, Israelites are going to be rescued. All right. So whosoever calling on the name of the Lord is referring to the Israelites calling on the name of the Lord. It clarifies it here when you go back into the prophets, the books of the ancient prophets. All right, so when you go back to 10, it says there's no difference between the Jew and the Greek. Why? Because the Greek-speaking Israelites that convert back to their original customs have the ability to call on the name of the Lord. All right, right here, the verse is amended. When you go back to the original, all right, it clears it up. All right, promise of the Spirit. All right. Remember, this book is written for the Israelites. All right. And 27th verse, "And ye shall know that I am in the midst of Israel, and that I am Yahweh your God, and none else, and my people shall never be ashamed. And it shall come to pass afterwards that I will pour out my spirit upon all flesh, and your sons and daughters shall prophesy." It's referring to the Israelites. "Your old men shall dream dreams, and your young men shall see visions." All right. And then every, once in a while you'll have, certain Edomites and other nations get the dreams and visions. All right. But the main people that are going to get the dreams and the visions are going to be the sons and the daughters of the Israelites. All right. And also because the Spirit of the Lord is not working with the other nations. It's only working with the Israelites. All right. and also upon the servants and upon the handmaids in those days where I'll pour out my spirit. All right. So you have others, right? But the main spirit is going to the Israelites, because the Israelites are the only ones that can prophesy by the word of Yahweh and the Son Yahweh Shai. All right. With full authority. When the other nations may get the word, like there was a man with his eyes open, the Moabite. Yeah, he got prophecies and he did prophesy. All right. But he wasn't an Israelite, and he prophesied about his own destruction. He said out his own mouth that he's going to smite the corners of Moab. All right. So whosoever call on the name of the Lord is referring to all the Israelites that call on the name of the Lord will be saved. All right. So how is the word Helen used? We look up here. G1672. All right. G1672, Helen. So this is where they give you the truth, but then they lie. All right. So it says in wider sense, the name embraces all nations except for Israelites, which is very odd. Just so wait a minute, it embraces every nation, but so every nation can be called Helen or Greeks, but the Israelites can't be called Greeks. All right, that's false. The Israelites can be called Greeks. All right, that made the language, customs, learning of the Greeks their own tongue. So making your customs and learning of Greeks their own tongue is not exclusive to everybody else except the Israelites. Because if a Israelite made the customs and learning of Greeks their own tongue, they would definitely be called Greeks. You wouldn't make an exception because he's an Israelite. All right. But they go off there when they make that statement. Not Jews. This is it's just wrong. It's factually wrong. All right. So then it says especially not. So why would it be so the Israelites are the only nation that can't be called Helen, even if they speak the language of the Greeks, which is completely not true. All right. So in the first time Helen even shows up, it's referring to the Israelites. The second time Helen shows up, all right, it's referring to the Israelites. All right. It says John 7:35. Then said the Jews among themselves, whither will he go that he shall whither will he go that we shall not find him? Will he go amongst the dispersed amongst the Gentiles and teach the Gentiles? So you had the dispersed, G1290, that were dispersed amongst the Helen, the actual Helen. All right. So the dispersed, that's the subject. Diaspora. So scattering. Israelites dispersed among foreign nations. All right. Israelites resident in a Gentile country, or Israelite resident in a Hellen Greek country. Dispersion. All right, so those Israelites that were dispersed amongst the Greeks were speaking Greek. All right. This is a complete fact. All right. And they were being called Helen. All right. The ones that didn't know. And the ones that did know, they either were speaking Greek, reading the Septuagint, or they were bilingual. All right. Every Israelite didn't have the same experience. Some Israelites only spoke Greek. Some Israelites were bilingual or trilingual. All right. Here's some more ammunition. John 12:20. And there were certain other Greeks among them that came up to worship at the feast. There you go. All right. If you were actual Helen, you're worshiping Zeus, Aphrodite, Hermes. All right. Those Greco-Roman gods. All right. But these particular Greeks here were Israelites that spoke Greek. This might have been a feast of dedication, tabernacles, I forget. Let's I think it says. If you know, you can put in the comment section what feast this was. Let's look up feast. Festival day. Holy day. All right. So whatever feast it was, it was referring to an Israelite high holy day. All right. And there were certain Greeks among them that came up to worship at the feast. The same came therefore to Philip, which was of Bethsaida of Galilee, and desired him, saying, Sir, we would see Yahushua. All right. And Philip cometh and telleth Andrew, and again Andrew and Philip tell Yahushua, and Yahushua answered them, saying, The hour is come that Son of Man should be glorified. All right. So it appears here that he spoke with them. All right. It said the same came therefore to Philip. All right. So the only people that can come up and worship at the feast are the Israelites. Can no other nation come up and worship at the feast? All right. So whatever feast it was, it may reveal it if you read up a little bit, but you can search for that. Hosanna, save now. All right. So Yahushua entertained these Israelites that spoke Greek and Hebrew. More than likely, these are bilingual Israelites. All right. And there were certain Greeks among them that came up to worship at the feast. Let's read up here. The Pharisees therefore said among themselves, Perceive ye how ye prevailed nothing? Behold, the world is going after him. All right, so the subject changes. All right. And there were certain Greeks among them that came up to worship at the feast. The same came therefore to Philip, which was of Bethsaida. All right, probably pronouncing that wrong. Bethsaida of Galilee, and desired him, saying, Sir, we will see Yahushua. All right, so there you go. What did Yahushua say? There's no salvation but to Israel, roughly paraphrasing. All right. And Yahushua answered them, saying, The hour is come that the Son of Man. So how did he came up? So he started explaining to him that he was going to be sacrificed for all of our sins, whether they are Israelites that speak Hebrew and are circumcised, or Greeks that are bilingual, only speak Greek, that are circumcised or uncircumcised. If they believe on Yahushua, they're going to be delivered. Verily I say unto you, except the corn and the wheat fall into the ground and die, it abideth alone. But if it die, it bringeth forth much fruit. Yeah, to get the seed, you got to peel open the fruit. And then it dies, and then it grows. Then when it dies, it grows. All right, the fruit dies, and then you get the seed, and then the seed comes to life again. If any man serve me, let him follow me, and where I am, there shall also my servant be. If any man serve me, him will my Father honor. All right. So it's clearly here that the Lord, through his disciples, is entertaining Greeks. All right. These Greeks are Israelites. All right. Because they knew to come to worship at the feast. All right. Which the feasts are in the law. All right. And the Lord took part in the feast also. All right. The Lord was perfect. All right. He didn't commit any sin while he was in the flesh as Yahushua. All right. So You look up synagogues, synagogue. You have, obviously, in Jerusalem, circumcision. And you had Israelites that lived in foreign lands that built houses of worship. And the buildings were solemn. Israelite assemblies are held. Synagogues seem to date their origin from the Babylonian exile in the times of Yahushua and the apostles. Every town, not only in Palestine, but also among the Gentiles, if it contained a considerable number of Israelite inhabitants, at least one synagogue, the larger towns, several, or even many. These were also used for trials and inflicting punishment. So it's an assembly, right, of Israelites. And some of these Israelites spoke Greek. Or the ones that were dispersed among foreign nations, they spoke Greek or they were bilingual. All right. And the difference comes in when these houses of worship are they circumcised or uncircumcised. All right. If they're reading, the laws and the prophets, then they will be circumcised. They'll just be speaking Greek, or they may not have been perfect. They may have been uncircumcised. They're still reading the laws and the prophets. All right. It depends on the customs of that particular house of worship. All right. And then you had other Israelites that just worshiped the Greek customs, and they were uncircumcised. All right. And they assimilated fully into the Greek culture. All right. Because when you go into the first book of Revelation, it tells you about the different churches in Asia Minor, and every church had something that they needed to work on. All right. So we know that all these churches that were scattered throughout the heathen, they weren't perfect. All right. That's why you had the Paul and the different people under him go out and preach and set those different synagogues in order. Because some of them were just reading the laws and they didn't have Yahushua yet, and he expounded, and some of them converted. All right, that's one point. Synagogue. Then you have this word Hellenistas, which comes from is derived a derivative of Hellen, which means Greek. All right, so the first part of it is Helen. You pronounce it Hellenistas. A Hellenist. Let's see what they say. A person living in Hellenistic times who was Greek in language, outlook, and a way of life, but was not Greek in ancestry, meaning descending from Yoan. If I'm saying that right. Yoan. All right. But was not Greek in ancestry, meaning descended from that nation directly. All right. Especially a Hellenized Jew, a specialist in the language or culture of ancient Greece. All right. Yeah, the Israelites weren't the only nation Hellenized, but pertaining to the Bible, the Bible is a book of the Israelites. All right. Israel was prophesied to rule. They will receive the spirit, dreams, visions, prophets. All right. So the Bible is mainly about the Israelites and history, prophecies, laws. All right. A Hellenist. One who imitates the manner and customs or worships the Greeks and uses the Greek tongue, using the New Testament of Jews born in foreign lands and speaking Greek. All right. So where they go off is that it doesn't matter if you use Hellenistas or you use Helen. All right. It's still speaking about Israelites that use the Greek customs. This is just a more specific word, a more proper word to distinguish, because you had actual descendants of, Helen or Yawan, all right, that were back there. That were actual Japhites, all right. So you're not going to distinguish, if you know who it's already talking about, you're not going to just use the proper word every single time. All right, Hellenistas, you're just going to shorten it up and say Helen. All right, they're still Israelites, both Helen and Hellenistas, that's pertaining to whom, Paul and the Greek-speaking Israelites were going to speak to convert, to follow and worship in Yahweh Shai. All right, but the strong, the blue letter, they try to make a distinction and say, well, these are the only Jews. But when you talk about a Helen, that's not talking about Jews. No, they're both talking about the southern kingdom, Judah, Benjamin, Levi, and the scattering of the other tribes that were back there in, the so-called Middle East, Syria, Iran, Israel, Egypt, Turkey, Greece, Macedonia, all those areas. Those are that the Helen is referring to the Israelites that spoke Greek and made Greek their tongue. All right, a Hellenist. All right, a Hellenists are Israelites. All right, it says, and he spake boldly, Acts 9:29, in the name of Lord Yahweh Shai, and disputed against the Grecians, against Greek-speaking Israelites or Greeks, but they went about to slay him. So these set of Grecians, Greeks, that's what Israelites, didn't take kindly to the word being spread. All right, but these Greek-speaking Israelites did. All right? You can just shorten it up and say Greeks. You don't have to say Hellenistas. You can just say Helen. All right. These are, because every time it mentions the Helen, it can be talking about Helen or Hellenistas, meaning Hellenistas, where they fully acknowledge, that they were descended from Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, and they were keeping certain customs. All right, but the Helen, which are also Israelites, they weren't keeping the customs, but you can use them interchangeably. All right, you can just shorten it up and say Greeks. But if you want to be specific, same thing with how you would say Kingdom of Israel or Judah. It depends on who's saying it and how deeply they're trying to describe it. If you say the Kingdom of Israel, okay, are you talking about the northern kingdom, or are you talking about the whole nation? All right, it's all about context. All right, and how detailed are you trying to describe the subject? All right. 11 and 20, and some of them were men of Cyprus and Cyrene, which when they were come to Antioch spake unto the Grecians, preaching the Lord. And at the hand of the Lord was with them, and a great number believed and turned unto Yahweh. All right, not all of them, but a great number did. Some of them hated him. Some of them said they don't care what they're preaching about, wanted about their business, continuing being Greeks. All right, but they were really Israelites. All right. All right, and lastly, all right, just the nail in the coffin. All right, that the Greeks, Hellenistas, whether they knew they were Israelites, didn't know they were Israelites, they were all Israelites. All right. I mean, whether they worship the customs or not, when the Bible describes Helen and, Paul and different missionaries and circumcised Israelites from Jerusalem going to preach to people with a different label on them besides, Jew or Israel, like Helen or Gentile, these people were really either uncircumcised Israelites or circumcised Israelites that were not, didn't believe in the Lord or didn't keep the customs. of our fathers, which is the law. All right. Yahushua died and was resurrected to take away our sins. All right. You go to Acts the 14th chapter. All right. You go, hold on him. So Paul just healed someone. Right here, start the 8th verse. And there sat a certain man of Lystra, impotent in the feet, being a cripple from his mother's womb, who never had walked. The same heard Paul speak, who steadfastly beholding him, perceiving that he had faith to be healed, said with a loud voice, stand upright on thy feet. And he leaped and walked. And when the people saw what Paul had done, they lifted up their voice, saying in the speech of Lycaonia, the gods are come down to us in the likeness of men. All right. So that's the first clue right there. Go to Lycaonia. Let's find out where Lycaonia is. It says speech of Lycaonia. All right. Lycaonian tongue. It doesn't tell you what it is. All right. But I looked it up. All right. It's basically broken Hebrew. All right. Or different dialect. The languages are very similar. Saranic goes back to Aramaic. Aramaic goes back to Hebrew. All right, Laconia. So let's look it up on the map. Images. There we go, right there. Laconia. So it's in Turkey. All right, so these were Israelites that were speaking the dialect of Aramaic Saranic. All right, we look up speech of Laconia, Acts 14:11. Through research, it says probably ancient Assyrian language, which is Hebrew, or Aramaic. Aramaic, all right, which Aramaic is very similar to Hebrew, very similar, and you can prove that by going to the book of Daniel. Same characters are used, just they're pronounced slightly different. All right, so Assyrian, which is Aramaic, or perhaps others think corrupt Greek intermingled with Saranic words. Which Saranic goes back to Aramaic, language of ancient Syria, a Western dialect of Aramaic. So basically, they were speaking Hebrew. Then the Babylonians took them over, and they was speaking the form of like Aramaic. All right, which is Syrian. All right. And then it evolved or devolved into what they call the speech of Laconia. All right. So the point was, it definitely was not Greek, all right, or it was like Spanglish, right? Yeah, it's like English, Spanish. So you got like Greek / kind of Aramaic Hebrew. All right. It all goes back to Hebrew, but they weren't speaking the pure Hebrew and they weren't speaking the pure Greek. They developed their own language, so to speak, the speech of Laconia. So that's how we know these were not, Caucasians, all right, or purebred, Japhet. All right, these were Israelites, all right, that spoke a form of Greek / Aramaic. All right, the speech of Laconia. All right, that's the first part. All right, saying in the speech of Laconia, the gods have come down to us in likeness of men. Now, how the hell did Paul and Barnabas understand them? Because they could both speak Hebrew, Aramaic, Greek. All right, because remember, Hebrew is very close to Aramaic. All right, so they could understand it, even if they didn't understand it perfectly. They knew what they were saying. The gods have come down to us in likeness of men. They were saying some form of Allah, or the Theos. The gods are come down to us in likeness of men, and they call Barnabas Jupiter, right, which is Zeus, and they call Paul Mercury's, which is Hermes, because he was a chief speaker. All right, I believe Hermes means messenger, so Paul was a chief speaker. messenger, speaker. All right. Then the priest of Jupiter, which was before the city, brought oxen and garlands unto the gate, and would have done sacrifice unto the people. So remember, they're not speaking pure Greek. They're speaking like an Aramaic / Greek mixture. All right. So these are not Greeks. These are not pure Greeks. Edomites, so-called white people. This is what someone said. Oh, these are Caucasian people worshiping Jupiter because of Renaissance art. All right. No, these were Israelites that were speaking a mixture of Greek and Aramaic. All right, it says Saranic, which is Aramaic. Which is a dialect of Aramaic. All right. So, which when apostles, they were about to do sacrifice to Paul and Barnabas and Paul, which when the apostles Barnabas and Paul heard of, they rent their clothes and ran among the people, saying, "Sirs, why do you these things?" Because they were about to commit idolatry. All right, they were using Barnabas and Paul as idols because they could perform that miracle. We also are men of like passions with you, and preach unto you that ye should turn from these vanities into the living God, right, Yahweh Shai, which made heaven and earth and the sea and all the things therein, who in times past suffered all nations to walk in their own ways, meaning the Israelites scattered abroad. All right. Nevertheless, he left not himself without witness, which means a record, a law, or prophecy, in that he did good and gave us rain from heaven and fruitful seasons, filling our hearts with food and gladness. And with these sayings, scarce restrained they the people, that they had not done sacrificing to them. All right, so by making that statement, they held off them making sacrifice. All right. All right. When you look it up, it means it was hard to do. It says they scarce restrained they the people, that they had not done sacrificing to them. It's not easy, scarcely, very rarely, difficult, with difficulty, hardly. And we got restrained they the people. Katapao, to make quiet, to cause to rest, to grant rest, to lead, to quiet, to still, to restrain, striving or doing something, to desist. All right, so he stopped them, but it was difficult. All right, and then we look up the phrase that he said, that was actually in the law. All right. It says, he did good and gave us rain from heaven and fruitful seasons, filling our hearts with food and joy and gladness. So we look up cross-reference, and it goes there into the law in Leviticus and Deuteronomy. It says the same thing. So he repeated that phrase to them in the law. All right. And they didn't sacrifice. Why? Because if they were Greeks, so-called white people, or Japhet, all right, Yawan, which are brown people anyway, but they're not Israelites, this wouldn't have meant anything to them. Leviticus 26:4, then I will give you rain in due season, and the land shall yield her increase, and the trees of field your fruit. That I will get, Deuteronomy 11:14, that I will give you rain of your land in its due season, the first rain and the latter rain, that thou mayest gather thy corn and thy wine and oil. All right. So rain in due season, so our crops could grow. All right. Remember, back then there was no damn factories outputting manufacturing foods. You had to toil in the ground and then pull it and sell it in the marketplace directly. All right. Rain in due season and latter rain, corn, wine, and oil. All right. Without witness, he didn't leave us without witness, in that he did good and gave us rain from the heaven and fruitful seasons, filling our hearts with food and with gladness. All right. So that's how we know that these people were Israelites. and that they knew that they were Israelites, where their ancestry came from, but they chose to be Greeks. All right. So, hope this was informative and edifying. Till the next lesson, Shalom.